Parshas Bechukotai is, of course, most well known for the tochacha, the very vivid and very scary description of the punishments that will befall the Jewish people if we don't follow the mitzvos of the Torah, if we don't listen to Hashem. The Torah tells us here, right at the outset, in Perek Chavav, Pasuk Tesvav, Im Bechukotai tim asu, im es mishpatai tigal nafshechem. If we will consider Hashem's statutes revolting, if we reject Hashem's mitzvos, if we do all of this, levilti asos es kom tzasai avrachem es brisi, if we will abandon Hashem's commandments, we will abrogate our covenant with Hashem, then really bad stuff is going to happen. And of course, the psukim continue, and as I say, in very vivid, very scary detail. What is fascinating is that when we turn to the end of the parak, in fact, the psukim, the section, ends on a very high note. In psukim Mem Daled through Mem Hey, we read, Va'af gamzos biyosam be'eretz oivehem, loma astim v'lo ga'altim l'chalosam l'hafer brisi itam, kini Hashem Elohehem. Hashem says, even when you've done bad, even when you haven't listened to the mitzvos, even when you have been disloyal, even when you have deserved the punishments that are described here in the tochacha, nevertheless, I will never fully abandon you. Even when you are in Galus, Hashem says, I will be with you. V'zacharti lehem bris rishonim asher hotzesi osam me'eretz Mitzrayim le'enei hagoyim lios lehem le'elohim ani Hashem. I will never forget the original covenant and the true love that we began our relationship with. So on the one hand, we begin with this ultimatum, which can lead to serious and catastrophic punishments. And on the other hand, the Torah ends this section on a high note, noting that even when we are deserving of punishment, even when we have abandoned Hashem, and correspondingly it seems as if He has abandoned us, it's never a true abandonment on Hashem's part, because He will always remember us, always love us, and always remain connected. What I'd like to call your attention to, however, is a pasuk that is the transition between these two seemingly opposite halves of the section. We begin with great detail of the punishments, we end on a high note of love and optimism, but there is a section right before that, a pasuk, which is the transition between these two halves, and that is pasuk Mem Beis. V'zacharti es brisi Yaakov, v'af es brisi Yitzchak, v'af es brisi Avraham eskor, v'haaretz eskor. The transition between the punishments and the glimmer of hope is the reference to Zechus Avos, the idea that Hashem remembers who our father was, who our grandfather was, who our great-grandfather was. Hashem remembers His binding covenant with Eretz Yisrael and with the Avos. That itself is not so unique. We have this phenomenon in other places in the Torah. However, what is striking, what is in fact singular and unique, is the way the name Yaakov is spelled here. This is the only time in the entire Chumash, Chamishi Chumshei Torah, in which Yaakov's name is spelled Malay. Yud Ayin Kuf Vav Bet. And rather than just being a seemingly textual anomaly, Rashi quotes a very profound and mysterious teaching from Chazal. Rashi tells us that while there's only one time in the Torah, there are 4 other times in the Nevi'im, so that altogether in the Tanakh, 5 times Yaakov's name is spelled Malay with a Vav, and this, says Rashi, based on Chazal, corresponds to the fact that there are 5 times in Tanakh where Eliyahu Hanavi's name is spelled Chaser, without a Vav, just Aleph Lamed Yud Hey. The 5 missing Vavs from the name Eliyahu are corresponding to the 5 times in Tanakh, including the one time in our Parsha, in which the Vav is added to Yaakov's name. Rashi and Chazal go further, and they state there's something profoundly metaphoric about this substitution of the letter Vav from Eliyahu's name and it being replaced and added into Yaakov's name. Says the Medrash that Yaakov, as it were, natal os mishmo shel Eliyahu, eravon sheyavo v'yavaser gu'ulas banav. Yaakov, as it were, took the letter Vav from Eliyahu's name as a way of guaranteeing, as a sort of collateral, as a mashkon, that Eliyahu, who we know is symbolically, traditionally associated as the Mavaser Geula, the one who heralds the redemption. Yaakov took this letter Vav from Eliyahu's name, so to speak, as if he was guaranteeing, I got something of yours, and if you want it back, one day you have to promise to be the heralder of the redemption, the one who brings the Geula for my children and for my grandchildren. This is the beautiful but mysterious and enigmatic medrash quoted by Rashi. What is going on here? What is a deeper message? What is the connection between Yaakov and Eliyahu, or more specifically, how does the letter Vav, of all things, play in to the fact that here we have this deeply moving medrash, which is a meditation really on this profoundly stressful section of the Torah, gloom and doom, punishment, dispersion, destruction, and yet the possibility of hope and always remaining close to Hashem, and somehow the bridge that's holding everything together is the letter Vav. What is going on? What does Chazal have in mind? And I've seen from the Darshanim some suggest the following interpretation. We know that one of the primary uses of the letter Vav in the Hebrew language is the Vav HaChibur. A Vav is a letter that connects two words, two objects, two things which are otherwise seemingly independent. However, if you add the Vav, then it becomes this and that. These things become connected. The Vav plays the role in the Hebrew language of the Vav HaChibur. It is a connector. How does that play a role? So perhaps this is connected to a Mishnah in Maseches Idios. The Mishnah there tells us in Perches that when the Geula will ultimately happen, hopefully speedily in our days, when Eliyahu will come to be that Mavaser Geula, what will be the primary role of Eliyahu Hanavi? Often when we're learning, often when we're kids, we are told Tishbi, Yitaretz, that's Teku, that Eliyahu will come to resolve all the halachic difficulties. However, the Mishnah here emphasizes that what is Eliyahu's primary role as a heralder of the Geula, of the Mavaser Tov, the Mavaser Geula, says the Mishnah in Masechta Edios, La'asos Shalom Ba'olam, to bring peace, to bring harmony, to bring unity to the world and to the Jewish people. And if you put these 2 points together, something beautiful emerges. If the ultimate goal of the Geula, of redemption of Eliyahu Hanavi, is to bring Geula, it is no surprise, therefore, that the letter, so to speak, that Yaakov holds on to as the guarantee that Eliyahu will one day come, is none other than the Vav HaChibur, the Vav, the letter that symbolizes connectedness, as if to say, Yaakov is telling us not only what the goal is, but how to get there. Yaakov's name is spelled Malay here and in those other 4 circumstances precisely to be a message, to be a roadmap to us. Not only that we should know what the ultimate goal or destination is, La'asos Shalom Ba'olam, but how to get there. It's not just blind hope, but it's a roadmap. How can we get there? Not just hoping for a miracle, but how we can earn that miracle. We don't just dream of Geula, we can achieve it. And how so? By being in our own lives a Vav HaChibur. If we want to have a mashkon, an eravon, a guarantee that ultimately Eliyahu will come, we need to live lives of chibur, of connectedness. Doesn't mean we have to agree with everybody, but we have to feel connected, certainly to our fellow Jews, and ultimately to all of mankind. That is the ultimate role. If Hashem will see that we are already living with chibur, we are living the message of the Vav, then that, it seems, is the ultimate guarantee that Eliyahu will come with or without the Vav. More importantly, is that there is chibur in our lives, and that ultimately the Geula will bring, heralded by Eliyahu, the ultimate unity between people and between all people and HaKadosh Baruch Hu.